our next guest, spent plenty of time in New Orleans, taking on the Saints, taking down the Saints, doing battle with the Saints. Whose buses got egged? Was it your buses in New Orleans, or was it their buses in Atlanta? It was their buses in Atlanta.
Their
Did
buses.
you throw the eggs?
Oh, did you? Were you there?
You know what? No, I was not there. I might have had some friends there. I don't know that, but who knows? It's kind of crazy.
Thomas Dimitroff, longtime GM of the Atlanta Falcons. Your name popped up a few times in this cycle. We like that. It's
refreshing
amazing to me
actually.
that guys, like coaches get rehired. GMs who have done incredibly well, put together Super Bowl teams, it's like you got one shot and only one shot. Now, I know there's been some exceptions, but it feels like the default is still it's hard to get back in once you've done it once, no matter how well you've done.
Two of the exceptions happen to be the two guys that were part of the search, actually, interestingly enough, right? Mike Tannenbaum and Rick Spielman both had opportunities to be second-time general managers, which I thought was fascinating.
Right.
So, it's been a year, it's been 3 years, and I decided to put my toe back in because it wasn't just like I would randomly go everywhere. I like where I'm working with Data Company, but football at the core. Every day of my life, I think about evaluating players and building a football team. Had the opportunity to interview there, and I was extremely interested because the talk was that organization wanted and needed
somebody that had been there before, right? I said that to him a lot. That was the talk up there in New York.
It was very different than my interview with Tennessee, who I knew that they were looking for youth there. Right? And I like Chad Brinker. He's got a lot of work to do there, and I like Mike Borgonzi. But the Jets thing was framed differently, and I really thought that was going to be the case. I was the first interview there in the whole process. That was a long process, and they told me when I walked out, "Good luck. This is going to be a long time. You better have patience." That was almost 5 weeks until you heard back from what was going on. But
What's your big reason, though? Like, if you just had to, if you talked to owners about this or other GMs, why is it that you were with Dan Quinn in Atlanta? You both were a part of that team. He gets a second shot. You have this, look at that team that he built in Atlanta. It was pretty damn good. No wonder they went to the Super Bowl. Why is it that the GM doesn't get the shot?
I continue to think it's, when you're a head coach, you can be contrasted to the next head coach that's coming in, right? If you're a player coach and then the next guy's a hard ass, like you can say we need this.
Okay.
And I think in the GM side there's not that, right? And the other thing, meaning like I don't think that the owners follow the GMs. That's my take. One of the things that came out in this interview process for me was I used to always think it was tough enough to get a first-time general manager job because it's just tough. But the questions to the first-timers are, what would you do here? You can create your answers as a second-time guy.
That's a valid point.
13 years. It wasn't just, 13 years in this, 13 drafts and free agencies. There was a lot to dig into. And I think there's a lot more of that, or a lot more scrutinized when you're trying to get in as a second-timer. And I just feel like that plays into it a little bit.
That's a really good point, though. I never really thought of that angle. You're right. The guy that's never had the job can just throw out whatever, and they go, well, that sounds pretty good. That might work.
And I'm going to walk you to the podium, and that's going to be an easy walk an easier walk to the podium.
With all that said, what would you do if Myles Garrett was your star defensive player with 2 years left under contract, and he came in and said, I don't see a path to winning a Super Bowl here. Enough is enough. I want to be traded. What would you do?
At first, I'd be aghast, and I'd be like, how am I going to do some damage control here? And then I'd go back, sit down, and wherever it was, and I would contemplate, the kind of compensation you'd get. Because what are we talking about here? We're talking about potentially 2 1s.
Right. That's
three,
what I said earlier. Yeah,
whatever
that's
those
what I
numbers
thought.
are.
Right around there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's legitimate.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I know personally, whether this is right or wrong, Mike, I was never one. If I had people come into me, players, there's a side of me. It's kind of that. I don't know if that's an ego thing, like, oh, you don't want to be here? Screw you.
Yeah, right.
Get at her. We'll. So this was a different situation because he's so talented. But that organization right now is facing a lot, and so is Andrew Berry, of course, that way, right? That's a tough spot.
How many guys over the years did you talk out of wanting out of Atlanta?
Not many. I don't know if they're.
So you failed, is what you're saying.
No, but what I'm saying is everyone loved playing for Mike Smith, but and they loved playing for Dan Quinn, right? When Dan Quinn came, the funny thing was I've never heard more people say, I want to play for this guy the rest of my career. And Thomas, if you have to cut me, my pay, I still want to play for Dan Quinn.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah.
I want to go down this route anyways because we are more in this era of players are starting to call their shots a little bit, right? So is there what are other big differences you look at, like if you're like compared to when you started a GM to now in the league? Is there anything you look at and go, damn, I never even had to worry about that when I first started with Atlanta, but now you got to worry about, whatever it is, the analytics department, players spouting off, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's, one of the things that's interesting to me right now, first of all, is the pairing of the head coach and the GM. By the way, I just want to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's more so now than ever, right?
Right.
What Mike Tannenbaum and Rick Spielman are doing as a search, that's their job. It's the fact that they're not hiring GMs now first to sit in there and
be
help
a part of the process. Right.
That has me back on my heels a little bit, not thinking it's wrong. I'm just trying to get my head around it.
Never done that way.
Right. It's never been that way. And I understand if they were hiring a head coach and it were to be Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick, that's the first hire. But when you're talking about trying to figure out both of them together, that is something that's a little different. That's not the question you asked.
No, but that was a good answer nonetheless.
The data thing, the last thing I'll say, the data thing is something that's changed. I'm in the middle of working for a data company, and I realize there's a lot involved in that on play, the play calling side, right?
Right.
That side, and as well as the roster management side. Things are changing fast, and you have to be on top of it. If you're not, I think you can be left behind.
Yeah, right.
I want to ask you in a minute what you're doing now.
Sure.
You said something that caught my attention, though. You mentioned Bill Belichick. You worked with him in New England. You faced him in the Super Bowl. Why do you think he hasn't gotten back into the NFL, and do you think he ever will?
I think it was his choice to go to Carolina, of course. I really do. I think personally, I'm not answering for him, but in my mind, because I do think he is such a great coach, I hands down think, I told you last year or whenever it was, I don't think there's another coach that could get a team to a Super Bowl in 3 years as fast as or as adeptly as Bill Belichick could. So why hasn't he? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, as you saw during that process. I just felt like this year with a lot of the changes right now that he might have had an opportunity if he would have stayed in the fold. But evidently he wanted to go into sort of an idyllic situation in, if that's the right word, in Carolina, right?
Do you think he'll come back to the NFL?
I would like to see him back in the NFL. I know Bubba Cunningham and those guys over there don't want me to say that. And the chancellor, who I forget his name, but when I was watching that, but we'll see. I mean, you think Bill Belichick picks up the phone. I don't care if you don't think he's going to be talking to him for more than 30 seconds because that's his personality. Man, he is going to win that uncle over, right?
Yeah, right.
He's telling him,
100%.
I'm going to make your guy the best pro that he can be.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Definitely going to win it over. I think the big thing, and you probably know this, or just we talk about it so much, is just that it's the other stuff. It's the, I don't know if everybody thinks he'll just come in and coach the football team. They're going to feel like he's going to try to take over the organization, and that feels like it's, part of what scared people away.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't you look at it as an owner and a president and a CEO of whatever football team and say there are certain guys you want to come in and do that, and there are others that you don't.
Yeah.
And I get it pushing away on someone who's a power monger and haven't proven themselves. If there's a guy who ultimately needs to be in control and he has shown that he is worthy of being in control, well, that's another thing.
What do you make of the two teams, right? Like from a GM perspective?
Yeah.
Right. What has impressed you about the Chiefs and the Eagles and who they are and why they are who they are?
Well, I just keep coming back to, I know you guys believe this. There are two GMs in this game right now, and Howie Roseman and Brett Veach, who are at the top of their game. And they can be called the best GMs in this league. And Howie, let's talk about Howie first. I mean, the way that Howie approaches it, the way that you know where he is in that organization. He is the decision maker. He is aggressive with his trades. He definitely believes in not for long. He's going to do he's not going to sit on his hands. He's going to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
I think there are really no holes in that roster, right?
None.
And the way that they're putting it together. I also say this all the time very quickly.
Yeah.
He'll hire people around him that are really good, helping him.
Facilitators, whatever, right.
Yeah, for sure. And
right.
I think that some guys have a paranoia about that, right? They don't want to have former GMs involved.
Might
with
take
him.
my job or whatever.
No,
right,
I don't think that's him at all. I know it's not him at all. And I just think the way that he approaches that, I think, is great. I think that team, statistically, they're on top of it. I love their passion. I love their drive. I think they have an edge about them wanting to come back and obviously prove that they can do things. On the flip side, Brett Veach, very quickly on that, I think the way that he puts it together, the way he works with Andy Reid is vital. Andy has such trust and appreciation for him.
Right.
So Andy can step back and coach the football players. I think that's great what they've done there. they have some needs there. They had some ups and downs there.
Right.
But they also have two, I think, really good coordinators. I'm a huge Matt Nagy fan. By the way, Matt Nagy needs another opportunity to be a head coach in this league. And I'm a huge Spagnuolo fan. Steve does a hell of a job with the defense.
Yep.
Their coaching situation there is second to none, of course, in my mind.
Definitely.
Tell us all what you've been doing since your time with the Falcons and what relevance and application it has to the NFL currently.
I'll be mindful of the time. So it is a roster optimization company, right? We're a third-party roster optimization. We are a combination of subjective scouting, so the eyes of the scout, along with the objective side of a lot of data, advanced data analytics. We have over 25 NFL people in there evaluating talent for us right now, 5 former general managers, and then we have 45 data scientists and engineers as well that are taking all of our subjective data, all of our grading, along with some of the data out there, and they're creating algorithms and models that we're selling back to the NFL at a lot of levels. We can get into that another time. And we're also involved in the NCAA right now. 7 teams, 7 programs on data, NIL and portal work,
right,
which we all know, whether we believe in it or not, it is the wave. So I just personally believe the reason I'm staying with Sumer, I have a great deal of belief in that. If I were to go into an NFL team, there's no question that I would 100% say I am a football guy and I am all about evaluating talent. Use this as an augmentation tool.
Right.
And that's what I believe in. I think you don't walk away from data. You have to look at data.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the decision. It's not black box.
Right.
Does your data give you a winner for the game?
Well, it's funny because what I'm supposed to say is Sumer brain, right? We have our AI brain, and our AI brain is given the statistical edge to the Eagles, of course.
Right.
But on the other side, they're factoring in the X factor on Patrick Mahomes, and there's a 3-point gap there, and the 3-point gap is yet to be decided. They haven't told me what the answer is.
Right.
So I'm going to find out later.
Wow.
That's a bad
They'll
answer.
tell you after the game what the answer is.
They might. I'm sorry. They might do that, yeah.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.